All right, so now we're going to start to implement our pagination, and we have to do this on both the API route, the backend, and the front end component. So let's start off by going to our route where we fetch all of our properties. So that's going to be API properties and then route.js. And this GET request is where we want to just change some stuff up. So first off, the way this is going to work is we're going to hit our API route, which will be slash API/properties, which we can just hit in the browser to see. It gives us all the properties, right? Well, I want to be able to do properties ? And then page equals something such as page 2, and I already have it there, and page size equals whatever, 2, 3. Page size is the number of properties that we want on each page. All right, if I do that now, I still get the same result because we're not accounting for these page and page size search params. So that's the first step, is to go into the route here and get those, which we can do by, let's say, const page, and we can use that request object that's passed in, and then we can say next URL, like that, and then dot search params, and then dot get, which is a method we can use to get search params, and we want the page value. Now I do want to set a default here if that's not there, and we're going to set that to 1, of course, because we want to start on page 1 unless it's specified that we want to start on a different page. Then we want the page size, so I can copy this down, and let's change this to page size, and then this right here to page size. Ultimately, I think I want to do 9 because we have 3 column rows, but just to test things out, we'll say we want 3 property listings per page. Okay, now we need to utilize these values, so we need to be able to skip some properties, right? Because if we say get me the properties on page 2, we need to skip the ones that are on page 1. If we're on page 3, we need to skip the page 1 and 2. So let's create a variable here called skip, and we're just going to set that to the current page -1, or not current page, but, well, yeah, I guess it is the current page. And then we want to multiply that by the page size. So that'll give us the skip value. Now, down here, we want to do 2 things. We want to get the number of total properties, because we're actually going to return that with the response. And we can get the total properties by using the count documents. So we can use the property model, property dot, and then count documents. And we'll just pass in an empty object because there's no restrictions or conditions. It's just all the properties. That'll give us the total. In fact, I can just test that out real quick. We can say console log total properties, and if I hit this again, reload, and I look in the server, you can see 7. Okay, so we know that that's working. Now, the properties that we get, we no longer just want to get them all. We want to take in the page, only the ones on the page we're looking at. So to do that, we can say await find, right? And then we can add on to that dot skip, which is a method, and we can pass in the skip variable that we created above. Then we just want to limit it, so we can say dot limit, and we want to limit to whatever the page size. If it's 3, then we only want to show 3. All right? So with that said, now in the response, I don't want to just return the properties. I want to return both of these. In fact, we'll just call this total instead of total properties. And then here we'll create an object. Let's call it result. So this is the object we want to return that's going to have both the total and the properties. And then down here, instead of properties, we're going to return the result. So now if I come back here and I reload, now you can see we get an object that has total, so total 7, and then an array of properties. And it's only giving me, I think, should be giving me 3 properties if I'm on page 2 and I'm asking for 3. Let's say we wanted 1 per page. Now I'm only getting 1. So the pagination on the back end is working. Now if I go back to our website here, if I go back to the home page, it's going to break, and the properties page is going to break, because it's now looking at properties as if that is what is returned from the API route, but now it's not. It's an object that has both properties and the total. So that's an easy fix. We can go to, we'll do the home page first, which is, those are in this home properties component. And instead of getting properties directly, let's say data, and then here where we get the recent properties, it's going to be data.properties. Because remember, it's an object with properties in total. So if I save that, now the home page works again. But the properties page is broken, so let's fix that. We'll go to our properties.jsx, which is right here, and where we're getting the data, and we can just simply now say data.properties here instead of just data. And there we go. And you can see we're only getting 3. Because that's the default that I set. I'm not going to keep this at 3, so the page size, I'm going to have it at 9 ultimately, but just to test the pagination, we'll set it at 3. Now let's go into our properties.jsx and let's add the page size, and the total items as state values. And then in the next video, we'll have our pagination component that will change those values. So I'll just copy this down a few times. So this first one is going to be page, and then we have set page, and let's set that to 3. 1. Page size we'll set to 3. So this next one, we'll set that to 3. So set page size and page size. Then we want total items, and set total items, and set that to 0 by default. All right, and then when we make the request, instead of just fetch the API properties, let's turn this to backticks, and then we can do question mark page equals whatever the page in the state is, and page size equals the page size of the state. Okay, and then one other thing I want to do is the total items here. We want to set that, because remember, when we get the data back, it comes with total. So let's say set total items and set it to data.total. All right, now if I save that, we're still going to see 3, right, because I set the page size to 3. But if I were to change this to 2, the default's to 2, then we only get 2 back from the API, right? Because we're sending it through here. We're sending page size through the URL, through the endpoint, and that's coming in right here through the search params, and then it's being, processed through this and giving us back 2. So let's put that back to 3 for now. And then in the next video, we're going to create the pagination component that we can use to change that page, right? The different pages. Actually, let's try that. So we want to view the second page. Right now, the first one is Boston Commons. If I save that, now the first one is the Getaway. So we want the pagination in the UI to change this. So we can click next or previous and change the page. So that's what we'll do next.